Hi there. Do you get anxious? I'm sure you do. We all have a certain degree of anxiety in our lives. It's a normal condition. But what do you do about it? I mean, you can go to the doctor, you can get medication, you can try to ignore it, but um, I've always had anxiety. I think, kind of comes with the creative terrain to some extent. But I wrote an essay this week about anxiety and how I deal with it, one of the methods that I have to deal with it. I just wanted to share it with you. It's an essay that I emailed out on Friday, and it is called. The subject line was anxious, and this is what I wrote. When I'm anxious, I do something. I make something. It feels like making something changes something, and therefore I'll be okay. Calmer, safer. Is making something, look, I'm a good boy, credit that acts as a bulwark against whatever the monkey is needling me about, that monkey in my head, that voice? Or is it just a distraction? Is that how real artists feel? Soothed by their creativity? I guess I've always been anxious a fair amount, and that's why I've always been pretty productive. I don't think much about the quality of what I'm making. It's just the process, the act that serves as protectant. And if anybody comments on how much I seem to get done, I feel more embarrassed than proud, as if I was getting credit for nail biting or nose picking. Maybe writing this down will just reshuffle the deck and I can get on with things again. It could be worse, I guess. I could be a drinker or pick fights with strangers. Instead, I'm writing this to you. Your pal, Danny. There's also a PS, because I always write a little PS, and this one says, let me just put on my glasses, my other glasses, to tell you about it. P.S. I got a new spectacle case for my horn rims this week. It's leatherette with a hook on it, so I can stick it in my shirt pocket, along with a mechanical pencil and a Tipperillo or two. All I need now is a brush cut, and I'll be ready to teach shop class in any Kansas high school in 1964. I may coach wrestling, too. But a lot of people responded to this essay. A lot of people wrote to me, and I'm going to switch back out of my shop teacher glasses. And they said that this idea resonated with them. First of all, the idea of the shop teacher, a lot of them said, well, what about teaching driver's ed, which is another part of that kind of a person, that persona. But a few people wrote to me about really this issue of anxiety. Janet wrote, and she says, I think this is why I managed to accomplish so much too. I think it is a soothing mechanism rather than a ploy for attention. I don't really care how other people regard my continual busyness if they feel the need to compare themselves to me. That's their issue, not mine. That's interesting. What else? I have another email here from, where is it? Kathy. She says, I used to write or journal about my anxiety, but it wasn't until I picked quilting back up after a long hiatus that I learned how it was better to relieve the thought's endless cycle. You can't think about two things at the same time, they say. I know it's true now. I had to relearn, really study again, and practice on the sewing machine and cutting table how to make quilting and patchwork. Being creative isn't really mindless, so thinking about something other than being anxious was key. How your expression today helps many people get their minds bent on something productive and enjoyable. Hopefully, I think it means you meant hope. So that's interesting. The idea of you can't think about two things at once, and therefore keeping your hands busy helps to keep your brain busy. Kay also wrote, she said, something I've recently learned has shifted these questions for me. Research now shows that doing art to shift my anxiety is the healthiest thing I can be doing for myself. And it doesn't matter whether it's good art, bad art, ugly art, or whether I'm even going to sell it. It's just a healthy way to nurture myself. Sometimes I make anxious art. Even that helps. Thanks for this missive. I particularly enjoyed the PS. Thank you, Kay. Thanks for writing. So, boy, there's hundreds. I got so many emails in response to this. So I guess there's a lot of anxious, busy people out there. And, you know, maybe you are too. Maybe this is something that you wrestle with. And if you do, maybe you want to think about making stuff. I wrote this little book, Never Feel Guilty About Making Art, that you can see down below. And that's about this notion of self-care, that art can be something that isn't about the things that we traditionally think of art making as being about, which is, I need to make money by selling art. I need to be in a gallery. I need to have my stuff published. Art is a great therapeutic thing, and you don't need an art therapist to get it. You don't need medication necessarily. What you do need is to allow yourself to do it. And it doesn't matter if it's good. It's not about the quality of the art. It's about the process, the feeling that you get as you focus on making something possibly beautiful or possibly just open and flowing and allowing your internal kind of mechanisms to come out on paper and to express them. And a lot of times when you have stuff in your brain, getting it on paper, whether it's writing it or drawing it or singing about it, removes it from you, removes it as a burden. So I'd strongly urge you to do that. If you're feeling worried, if you're feeling like you have an obsessive thought that you keep going over and over and over again, try doing this. Try clearing your mind with a little bit of making. You can make quilts, you can make mixed media stuff, you could do sculpture, you could do collage, you could do anything. But remember that that's why you're doing it, not to make it good, not to make it perfect, but as a way of treating yourself well and allowing your creative spirit to help cure you of these thoughts that are making you feel unhappy. That's what I do. It works for me. I'm up sometimes at 3 a.m. if I have a thought that's nagging me. I'll go and I'll do a little drawing, or I'll write down some thoughts, or I'll take those thoughts that are nattering away at me and I'll just type them out. And when I do, it's as if I've released them and they've floated away and they don't bother me. And I go back to my bed, I lie down, and I immediately fall asleep, and I sleep until morning. So it is definitely a great therapy for me. And maybe it will be for you. I hope that this has been helpful. So I write these essays every Friday, and I'll be glad to send them to you. Otherwise, maybe I'll see you here again on YouTube. Thanks for joining me today.